Now, if you thought Mega Man X was completely ignored by Capcom, I would say you might be right. They haven't released a new Mega Man X game since Mega Man X8 back in 2004. We did get Maverick Hunter X on the PSP in 2005. This game was a remake of the original Mega Man X. They changed the graphics. They also added some different gameplay elements to make things fresh, even if you were an expert at the original. The graphics didn't really age well in my opinion, but the gameplay is still solid and definitely worth your time. There was also the release of Mega Man X Legacy Collections in 2018. This was a collection of all the Mega Man X games, sold in two different packages, Collection 1 and Collection 2. Collection 1 had Mega Man X through Mega Man X4, while Collection 2 had Mega Man X5 through Mega Man X8. And just from the selection of games, the first Legacy Collection is way better than the second. Back in 2014, the folks at Battery Staple Games have already been waiting 10 years since the last Mega Man X game. And after a successful Kickstarter campaign in the spring of that year, development on 20XX began. 20XX is an action platformer roguelike, where the gameplay is very much inspired by Mega Man X. You can collect power-ups and collect the enemy's weapon. However, where it differs from the classic Mega Man X games, it includes roguelike elements, semi-random level design, and an upgrade system, similar to Dead Cells or Binding of Isaac, where you can spend currency to purchase the ability to unlock the item in future runs. The game was officially released on Steam on August 16, 2017, after being in early access for 3 years. Later on, the game would eventually be released on other platforms, and it's currently available on Switch, PS4, and Xbox One in addition to PC. An interesting fact about this game is that the engine the game runs on was developed in-house by Battery Staple Games. When asked why they decided to go with this route, a lead developer on the project had said, "I had never intended to spend 4 years making 20XX. I built my own engine so that when I finished, if I didn't like doing this or if it failed, I'd look a lot better to larger companies having built my own engine versus using someone else's." It's also worth mentioning that this game was co-developed by Firehose Games through their Accelerator program, which I didn't know about before. What it is a program that small development teams can join, and they'll offer them a workspace, marketing help, and a stipend, all to help that team complete their games. And 20XX was a game that was completed through this program. After you boot up the game, you're greeted with the opening cinematic, which introduces our heroes and sets up what little story there is. It's clear right from the start that this game has no qualms about letting you know what the inspiration was for creating this game, which is made obvious with the "in the year 20XX" text that appears at the bottom of the screen. Our two heroes in this game are Nina and Ace, and they're essentially the Mega Man and Zero of this game, and they play almost exactly alike as their counterparts. Nina has a blaster, and Ace has a sword. So whether or not you're starting a new game or continuing an old one, you'll always begin in the main hub area. And the main hub area is where you'll be able to start a new run, begin a multiplayer game, change your character, do one of the daily or weekly challenges, start a boss rush mode, check the leaderboards. At the bottom floor of the hub is the shop, and this is where you'll be able to spend your in-game currency on permanent upgrades to be used in the later runs. Or you can buy upgrades that are just available on the next run only. These upgrades include your standard fare like more health or more energy, but they also include some game-changing ones like double jump or the ability to dash in mid-air. You also have the option to turn off all of those permanent upgrades and start a new game without any of them. The core gameplay here is very much Mega Man-esque in its design. To start, you'll begin at a randomly selected starting level, but from there you move from left to right, blast enemies, avoid obstacles, and take on very challenging platforming sections.
Oh man. Yeah, this is not bug, it's just really hard.
Eventually, you'll get to the end of the level and fight the boss. Upon defeat, you'll have the option of either selecting the boss's weapon, or one of two other bonuses. One very minor way this game differentiates itself from Mega Man is that collecting the boss's weapon doesn't happen automatically, and in fact, it's optional. One cool feature about this game is that boss weapons can be used as a dual purpose and not just as offensive weapons. They can be used to disable traps in later levels, which can make platforming sections significantly easier. However, by selecting the boss's weapon, you'll be foregoing that other bonus, and that other bonus could be increased strength to your main weapon, or increased health, or increased energy. This all kind of goes around the idea of how your build will go as you play the game, which I find really awesome. You can decide whether you want to focus on enemy upgrades and increasing your max energy. This will make platforming sections a lot easier and killing enemies a lot easier too. Or alternatively, you could decide not to pick up any boss weapons at all your entire run, and instead focus on increasing your max health and the damage output of your main weapon. It's a system that I really enjoy, and I think it adds a lot of replayability to this game. Now, after defeating the boss and collecting all of your rewards, you select the next level by choosing which boss you want to face. Sort of like Mega Man, but you can only choose between one of 3 available bosses at a single time. And there's 8 regular bosses in total, with 2 additional bosses in the end of the game. And all of these bosses are intricately designed, look amazing, and their animation is fluid. They also put up a significant challenge depending on when you play them. One really cool mechanic this game has is that depending on when you fight the boss, it will be a completely different experience. For example, if I fought a boss on the first level, it'll be a completely different experience if I fought that same boss on the 6th or 7th level. The boss will have different attack patterns, and the level will be different. It might include an additional lava pit or 2 just to make the encounter a little bit more difficult each time. So at the end of each level, there's an additional decision to be made about which boss to fight. Maybe you want to play the boss you have the most trouble with early on and get it out of the way, if you have the option. The controls in this game are really tight. Yeah, you've got the usual platforming mechanics, moving left, moving right, jumping, dashing. You can also wall slide. And while I'm doing all of these moves, I feel completely in control with what I'm doing. I'm actually surprised at some of the things I can pull off. Now, graphic-wise, I think this is a really good-looking game. The character and enemy designs are all really detailed, and the animation's really fluid. So I would be doing a real disservice if I did not comment on the soundtrack to this game. The soundtrack fits the game so brilliantly. It fits the gameplay and the game's style. I haven't listened to a song on this soundtrack that I've disliked, or thought that it felt out of place. In addition to all of this, you have the ability to play this with a friend, either online or locally. I played this online, and I didn't have any issues, and just found it a total blast to play. So that's 20XX, a game inspired by Mega Man X and developed by fans of the series. Now I know roguelikes aren't for everyone, but if you're a fan of Mega Man, you owe it to yourself to at least check out this game, because there is going to be something here that you'll enjoy. Maybe it'll be the challenging boss fights, the super hard platforming, or just the overall gameplay, which in itself is super solid. So that's my review of 20XX, a game I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm Teleporterdown, and this is actually my very first video review. It can only get better from here, and hopefully it's the first of many. Thanks for watching.